Yes, and no, you're also animate. Good evening to the next chaotic podcast. Um, yeah, welcome. Has been some time, but in between we didn't have topics, and
Yeah.
yeah, we also didn't really have today. But let's see where it goes.
Yeah, that's the thing about a podcast is just like uh, you've got to spend time offline to like if you want to talk about a specific subject, you want to like spend time offline to research and maybe write your opinions out to kind of make sure you're just not you're making sense when you say you have this opinion of something, like you want to have a reason to
Yeah,
defend it. But like I don't know, I guess for both of us, or at least for me, it's been a bit busy, so I haven't really
yeah, it's
researched any particular topic.
yeah, same for me. Also, we talked about it briefly before. It's just like there are two different things, and both things can be good. But one
Yeah.
obviously is a lot more work because then you choose a topic and you fit it in. Also, the thing that we both think, I think, had the most fun with was the free flowing. You know, when you don't think about what you are talking about, come from one to the another topic, and then it's like, oh, it's already 2 hours.
Yeah,
I had a lot
those
of
are
fun with that stuff, even though we're repeating ourselves in
yeah,
between and all that stuff. Not saying the other thing is bad, and I don't know. We can do that one time, but I think this is a different concept, kinda. So
yeah,
or a different thing. Um, doesn't hurt to try it, but then we obviously. So now the only time when we had a topic before it was like, okay, we talked about some topics like, okay, let's talk about this, or I read this article, maybe we can talk about this, and we
yeah,
we done that directly before the podcast mostly. So not
yeah,
not like not like
yeah,
a few days before, like, okay, let's watch all articles. You are
yeah,
looking what's if this guy was in jail, and I'm looking if the judge fucked up in this case. It's
yeah,
a little bit more laid back. Let's see what happens.
yeah. If the podcast becomes like school where you've got to cram before a test, then it's not fun anymore.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, the first topic I thought about, even though we've kind of, I don't know if we've actually talked about it because I forget what we talked about. I don't really have a
Same,
great
same. I
great
gotta.
memory,
Yeah, me
I
too.
think it might be time to talk about some coronavirus. What kind of prompted it is a couple of things in the news, and then a couple of things personally. Now, personally, I don't know anyone who's caught it. I've heard of people. I talked to people online. At least one person I know online who's had it and recovered. But in real life, I know two people who themselves they haven't had it. They've had family members catch it,
Mm-hmm.
and both of those family members have died from it.
Oh,
Um, yeah, and there's one the second one is most recent, like last weekend, and I won't say who it is, and I don't know this person personally, but this person, family member of the person I know was just turned 18, was just in college because it's September, or last month was September, and that's when school starts and college starts and university. And she in the first week of university she caught it and just felt ill and just went to sleep and never woke up. And it's hard to hear someone catch it and die from it, but it's even harder to hear when it's someone who's just essentially just started life on their own, catch it and die from it. And
yeah, yeah.
uh,
Especially after you hear so much, or you heard so much about, like, okay, children really don't have to fear anything and stuff. They have been contradicting information the whole time, and
right,
then you
right.
hear something like that. Obviously, yeah.
And a lot of that information is either bad information, like intentionally or not intentionally. I don't know. Some of it's like politically charged because, like, oh, well, with the here in the U.S., you've got this conflict between the medical experts saying we should do this and this and this, and then the people and politicians saying no because we're not going to do that because it's election year, and what's more important, and essentially what they're saying although not directly, but what they mean is that what's more important for them is getting reelected versus like doing what's necessary for the safety of the country.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
um, and it's not like, we all do dumb things, or we say, "Oh no, I'm not drunk. Let me drive. I'm not drunk." And then you're too drunk and you crash your car or whatever, or you hit a light pole or whatever. And when you do that first thing, when you screw up the first time, like if it's big enough, you think, okay, maybe I should listen to other people. But there's this I mentality where you want to keep doing, like, even if you're wrong, you don't want to admit that you're wrong, because then you'll look weak in front of your political enemies, and you just want to keep doing it, like, no matter, like, it's like,
A-
imagine a person who drives drunk, wrecks their car, and then the next week they get a new car, they drive drunk, wreck the car, again and again and again. You would think at some point this person has to
And
understand that's not what you're supposed to do, but they continue at it, and that's
I
part of
think
our
what you,
problem.
yeah, I think what you just said is also there's a, well, so if somebody is more ashamed of losing his face, for example, because he, done something stupid, um, more has more fear of that than maybe he could have killed someone.
Right, right,
Well,
right.
well, then there's another underlying problem, and that's probably that people give too much about what other people think of them.
Yeah, yeah.
And I mean, it can obviously make sense, and it makes sense, and people that grow up always are like that because, well, from growing up, there are always people like, it's like, okay, you're supposed to listen to this person because he's your whatever, your teacher, um,
Yeah,
the highest grade in kindergarten, the coolest kid. You have to be invited to his birthday party to make a new
yeah,
friends, whatever. But yeah, so there's a kind of a weapon these, and this is the same, kind of the same problematic, I would
hmm
say, kind of.
yeah. I Now that you mention it, like, I was just thinking, at least for me, and I don't know if this is the case for you and the people listening, but like in elementary school, like, it seemed like there was no, like, we're all equals and everyone's just a kid, and um, you could be friends with anybody. You could be like a nerd and you could be friends with like the sports, the guys good at sports, the sports jocks as we call them in US, or you can be friends with the people who like you know reading or whatever. There's no limit there, because like we don't understand.
There's no
Like,
category for that. That's the important
yeah,
thing, and that's why it
yeah,
works in the categories. Then just try starting to build out when it starts that some get left out or whatever because they found something where they don't fit into or stuff like that. This is where it starts building, and at the
yeah,
beginning, I think these categories are missing, which is obviously a good thing because these categories, as we just kind of lead a little bit to excluding
yeah.
people or to even to racism or stuff like that against other
Right.
groups. Yeah.
Yeah, I think for me, and this might be different for other people, of course, but like, I think it's in middle school when we start to see people grouping up and excluding others. So that's when you have, like, I don't know, the
The
people who
gangs.
like chess. They have their own group and they exclude people who don't like chess, and the people who like sports, they have their own group, and et cetera, et cetera.
And they also
And
start wearing the same clothes and stuff. So
yeah,
before it's more
and
like you meet yourself because you do the same thing, and then it also starts like showing off, like, look,
yeah,
I'm one of them.
and I'm wondering, how does that start? Is it just something that started way back when, and like, so let's just say, we're both in fifth grade
Mhm.
in elementary, just last year of elementary, and we're, hang out, we have all our friends, we're hanging out. Then we go into the next grade, which is middle school here in the US, sixth grade. And that's when you have people grouping up and excluding others. But why are they doing that? Like, just last year, your friends, like, everybody talked to everyone, And then in this year, people start grouping up. Is it something that they learn from like the older kids? Like the eighth graders are kind of pulling in sixth graders into their groups. It's just like some kind of tradition that passes on year to
Yeah.
year. And I wonder if that's the case.
Yeah, to a certain degree, probably, because most of the time children obviously look up to older, and older seems cooler. I still remember when I was a little child, when I saw someone, I was riding my bike with this fucking help wheels on the side, and
Yeah.
and there was some cool old guy driving without help wheels, free hands, eating a yogurt and passing
Yeah,
me,
yeah.
and I was like, what the fuck, this guy is cool. This
Yeah.
guy could have sold me anything because he was able to do that. And
Yeah.
so it's just like a natural thing to look up to something, and especially if we are really young, then it's like, you kind of get attracted to cool stuff, or maybe depending on your age, to stuff that is exactly the opposite of your parents, maybe, or stuff like that, So
Yeah.
I guess to a certain degree, totally, there's this, but there's also there's also, you know, I don't. There's this. It's the general thing that happens in society, and it happened the whole time. It's not good, and
Yeah.
everybody's talking about like everybody's equal and blah blah blah, but still they come home and complain about how bad the other worker there is, and that the guys from the other corporation can't do their job, and they always fuck it up. And
Yeah.
it's just and it has always been like this. And people that are closer together often tend to to say bad about another group, and they then rot together. And this, obviously not all people do that, luckily, but a lot do that, and it's through all age groups. And I think it probably also always has been. So I don't know. Probably when you think back, I don't know obviously all this, so I'm no historian. But so to a certain degree, it kind of makes sense that people group up together because they had to group up together to defend against other groups.
Yeah.
To find a certain, and then to have a certain might to do certain thing, or to kill the mammoth or whatever, you need a certain amount of people, and then you also need a certain amount of people to carry it back to your wherever you live, and to defend against the others. And then it's probably also healthy when your children grow up to tell them how bad the others are, that you are fighting the whole time because you are fighting for the two mammoths that are left in the area, stuff like that. So it's kind of, I guess it kind of developed from a necessity. So and then it kind of branched into that. And I mean, today, with people thinking so much about themselves and how stuff in the world is, kind of blew up also with what is kind of shown. I mean, we talked briefly about, and after you mentioned it, like with this, people are scared to lose their face because it's more important how people see them than what they actually did.
Yeah.
Because the picture that people have of them could get them things, or has a certain value for them. Even for some, it probably even has some currency value, for some people, I don't know, for Instagram people or people that are in the public. But for other people, it only has that value in their head, probably. So there is no real value. I mean, obviously, our whole reality is just in our head and what we think about it, kind of, and we build it ourselves. I mean, there's stuff outside happening that we kind of, a little bit of that we get to know, and then we filter that through our senses and through our mind with all the little things that we learn from children, through the whole growing up process. But it's kind of also, this is something that people kind of don't speak about. So it is so strange with all this equality talk, and with all these groups that are fighting for rights and stuff, because this is so close. This is this is something that is important for for such a case. I would say, at least.
Yeah, like just thinking about it, like in middle school, that's when you start to consider, like, at least for me, that's when I started to think about how others thought of me. I guess maybe that's the age when, and so that would be middle school would be what, like 13 or so. That's when you start to like realize how other people perceive you, and that's probably because people like say something to you, or you overhear somebody saying to you, or like two people you don't know talking about you, and then one of them says what the other person says, and that's when you start to become like self-conscious about like how you dress, how you act, or like if you screw up while you're speaking, that's when you become more self-conscious, and that's when you start
Yeah,
to
you're fully
that's
right.
when you yeah, that's when you start to think of how other people perceive you. And like I think we put a even though, you know, in my experience in school, I thought of, other people, but I don't think well, I kind of, I kind of picked on some people in school. Not like terribly. I didn't grab somebody's head and put it into the toilet. I wasn't that mean, or I didn't shove people into the locker. I didn't do that, but like, um, I think maybe we all do that. We all think bad things about some people, good things about some people, but we don't really consider how we express that. So that kind of makes some people, anxious and self-conscious and all that. But I think that's kind of maybe where it starts is right in that age, like pre-teenager, like 13 or so.
Yeah,
And that's when you start to like get into groups and camps or whatever you want to call them, and you think the other, like you're saying, like the other groups, they're bad people. You don't want to trust them. You want to behave, stay away from them. And yeah, like in I could imagine in our like pre-civilization history, where we're in villages and maybe we had to migrate from one place to another as the weather changed, and as the buffalo or the cows or whatever migrated, we had to follow them. So we couldn't like put down permanent housing anywhere. We had to go with them. If we saw another group, well, that's another group who's going to fight for our food, for their food, or there's going to be food that we're following, but we're both contesting each other for it. So that's why we
yeah,
were. Um, but the problem with that is like another thing. That's another thing that like we used to have that used to be beneficial, but now like if we're packing, you know, thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of people into cities, that doesn't work anymore. Because it's like, imagine if you had like 100 male cats that need their own territory, and you put them all in the same room. They're just going to be fighting nonstop, and it's going to be
yeah,
madness because they need their space, they need their territory.
yeah,
I think that's one bad thing about cities, is that it's kind of cramming all these people together, or essentially everyone outside your house you don't know for the most part, and so that's like we're always like kind of on guard because of our instincts,
yeah, yeah. That's
and
right.
it's a hard thing to overcome.
What's an interesting one is so I had some memories in between where you were telling all that, but I guess I forget one of them, most of them, but the first one I had when you said, so the first time when you have kind of the self consciousness, what the others think about me. For me, it was, I remember that that wasn't so in Germany. It's kind of ground school. These are the first four classes.
Uh-huh.
You normally start school at 6 or 7, and first 4 years is ground school. So in ground school,
Mhm.
I once got a new jacket, and the first day I came to the school with the new jacket. A pigeon totally shit all over my jacket,
Oh,
flying over, and I totally remember. And I came home and I told my mother, I don't want to wear this jacket anymore. I hate that jacket. So that was the first time I remember from my head. So probably has been earlier.
yeah.
But yeah, I remember that kind of. An interesting thing is, do you think? So, for example, when I go from my school time, there was a lot of bullying, not only being bullied, also all a lot
Yeah.
of, and also a lot of um uh what's what's even the word in English? Beating with other people and stuff.
Fighting.
Really, yeah, a lot of fighting. So, for example, after ground school in the 5th to 7th class, we had another class, and every pause we fought over a place where we played football with little tennis balls. So there were two classes, and we were meeting there and beating each other up for the one that gets the place for about, sometimes for half of the pause, and really bad. And we always had trouble with teachers. And the funny thing is, after that, and I don't know how, I would really like now, we all got best friends, and we were best friends since then. And and that's what I wanted to say. So obviously bullying is bad, don't get me wrong at all, but I wanted to, so do you think I'm not sure if bullying would go away if no one would bully. Maybe children have to feel out in that age a little bit, even though obviously it's totally bad, don't get me wrong, to even realize what's good and what's wrong, what does another person think, and what happens when I do such a thing, kinda. If you're living in a perfect bubble, you may be missing that experience, kinda.
Yeah. Now, I don't know for certain, and I could be wrong. I'll just speak my mind. If I'm wrong, then people can tell me I'm wrong. Here's these studies that say otherwise. But like, for me, from my perspective, having not researched it really much at all, bullying seems to be a male thing where for some reason we start to get more aggressive. Like, we're all going to have conflicts, right? Like if you let's say you're buying someone a game console for Christmas and there's only one left and you want it and you're there and there's someone else there, they want it too. There's conflict, right, between who's going to get it. And of course, you don't necessarily have to come to a fist fight with the other person. You could just talk it out. But like, we're all going to have conflict as long as we're living so close together. But I think the aggressive part of like verbal abuse and fighting and all of that, I think it's more of a male thing. And
Yeah,
I know
I think so too.
women do it. Girls do it.
Yeah, but
Girls are particularly vicious at some points, but like, I think maybe they get it from guys. Like they learn it from guys. Maybe they don't necessarily do it themselves.
I mean, I think you are right, but I also don't know any statistics, so I'm just talking my ass off here, but who knows? So I obviously the same happened with girls too, but it's a lot less, and also it's a different kind. I think girls bully more with with words and
minds.
being mean than just to fuck. In my whole time, and obviously, so from my life, that's not a statistic, but I've seen one or two girls really beating up another. So and I maybe see 100 times where they are mean to another person behind their back or tell others what kind of bitch she is, cause So I think it's just a different way. And also, obviously, same with that. Also, men do that, but for men, often or sooner it comes to the point where they fight. At least, obviously, this is totally generalized, and
right.
But yeah, so that's what I would think the statistic look like. I have no clue if they do actually.
Yeah.
And obviously, this this is also there in the animal kingdom, as they are their vote.
Yeah.
And I also agree that it will never disappear.
Yeah, I think we see it. Like, I was just watching a video, and like in Africa, like millions of years ago, there was apes migrating across Africa, and some would settle these areas, and there is this river, and to the south of the river, the trees and the grass and the vegetation was much more lush, and to the north of the river it was more sparse. So the gorillas, like the baboons and all those, or no, it was like the bonobos who settled in the south, where there's more to eat and more shade and shelter and all that. So they learned they didn't need to fight with each other. Bonobos are particularly known because they like use sex as a communication. Sex isn't just procreation for them. It's like it's social
bonding. Interesting.
Like that. Yeah.
Can you show me a video how to say hello? Okay, good. Just go on.
But to the north, where food is more scarce and shelter is more scarce, that's when you have like the baboons and chimpanzees who fight each other for territory and for mates and stuff like that. So I think if I'm remembering the video correctly, and assuming the video is correct in their information, like we have some characteristics of both. So some people are more social in trying to resolve conflict, and some people are just more aggressive. And I think that's just carried over into us. So like it just depends on the person where they've got more like confrontational or social
Yeah,
tendencies.
yeah, and it also totally depends, obviously, in the environment you grew up in. So,
Right.
if you are in an environment where everybody uses force to solve the problems, and this is
Yeah.
the usual thing, you pretty quickly learn that you also better do that, or you get more of that. For
Yeah. Yeah.
example, as brutal as that sounds, but if you also don't think about these things. But when you grow up and everybody beats up on each other, and um, there's just so for especially today, and I'm really peaceful, but I remember back then, and I still remember the first time I have a thing in my head, and I can turn around. So the first time that turned around was in ground school when someone spit at me and hit me with a stick, and I turned
Uh-huh.
around and I went totally berserk. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, so that's totally different. Even a peaceful person can have such a thing where it's just okay. Now it's payback, and it's not thinking. So it's just it was pretty. I still remember that I went to him and I stopped defending, and he hit me, and I didn't feel it. It was just like you are totally brain went out. So
Yeah.
yeah, pretty scary.
Yeah. And I have that tendency too, where like something I read or something someone says, like it makes my blood boil like instantly. And man, I want to like punch somebody, but like I've got to resist that. And that's something that's you know my own problem. I don't want to make that someone else's problem. I don't want to make my
Yeah,
own temper someone else's problem. So it's I see that, and I just need like some kind of other. I try to now. Well, I mean, when I was younger, I used to. Well, I don't know how you rate it, but I kind of got. I'd fight with my one of my brothers because my brother would fight with me. So, uh, but with other people, like I don't know, I was probably like a little too much of a bully at some points. Um, but I think now I try to like now that I'm older and wiser, I think it's better to just walk away and then try to like collect your thoughts and try to figure out why you're mad and how to tell the other person you're mad and why and what you think they should
yeah,
do to
yeah,
improve.
totally. Or even fuck them, and with fuck them I mean just ignore them.
Yeah, yeah. Some
But
some
yeah,
people are just like they're too far gone from your perspective. Like there's no you think that there's no middle ground. There's some
yeah,
people that just too far off.
yeah, and
And I
often
think
you
you realize that.
yeah, and I think after a time you realize when you do that often, you realize pretty soon if it makes sense to talk with somebody after a few sentences, or if
Yeah,
it's just yeah, better
yeah.
not.
But that's something you couldn't know. You couldn't possibly know in school, right? You're just learning how to interact with other kids
Yeah,
for the most part. Like I had lots of cousins, and well, let's as far as like my generation, I'm kind of in the middle, where I had cousins and brothers that are older, and then a lot of them are younger, so I'm kind of in the middle. So I had experience of being kind of the younger kid, but kind of being the older kid as well. But my family didn't all live in the same house, so like school for me was more social contacting with other kids than family. So uh, school's important to like learn, but like I think here in the U.S. there's just too many kids and not enough teachers. And I'm not blaming the teachers. I'm saying we're not here in the U.S. We're not paying teachers enough, and we don't have enough. So to make school like better to culture kids on how to
yeah,
we're not just teaching kids math and geography, like we're teaching them social skills and personal like conflict and stuff like that.
Yeah, but a big part is that it's more like they teach themselves, but there are certain rules and they will hit the rules, but it's not, that's not a certain topic that you have 2 hours a day. It's just you're thrown together with all these other people and you're supposed to learn this.
Yeah.
In between you have a break, and that's where you socialize. And then in between you come to the boundaries because somebody said, but you're not allowed to whatever play football there. You're not allowed to smoke on the school, or whatever you do. It's not like, I mean, it's so when I remember in my school the only thing that it was like, okay, so there was this term coming up of skills, and I was like, okay, we all need skills, people. We need social skills. We need this, but it was totally, it was like, it was not like there was anything taught about that. There was like, okay, you need methodical competence, you need this and that, and it was just like some terms they were thrown around for half a year without too much behind them, and that was it, basically.
Yeah, I think that's a problem, at least in my own experience of like schools. They will teach you like, they won't teach you how to apply what you learn. Sure, you can use you can learn geography, but like if you don't know
when to even use it, when do you need it?
Yeah.
And this is also a problem in getting people even interested in such a thing. Obviously, if they don't know what even to do with it. So for example, I always hated math. And I'm not an analytical thinker. I'm pretty bad at that. But I'm pretty good at languages or philosophy or stuff like that. But if someone would have put me in a situation that I've been later, where I'm standing before a big tank and I have to, without a calculator, get out how much water gets in there, then I would have seen, oh, okay, that's what I can use it for. Or when you build something and it's like, okay, it needs to be this and that, but it never happened. It was a totally abstract, theoretical monster that nobody knew where or why to even use it. It was just like, for me, math was just like, okay, I've given up because I have. So for me back then, it was like so you have to pick 2 courses that are your main courses, basically. You have the most hours in them and learn the most in them. For me, this was English and German. And when you took 2 from the same region, in this case language, then you were forced to take from another region, and you couldn't choose. So I was forced to take math. And and I kind of given up and was like, okay, I can't understand this shit. I will just learn when I have to use this form, but I don't even understand what I do. But it was the only way for me to get decent grades in math.
Yeah.
Because I don't get why it is like that, but I can, okay, this is how I will, whatever.
Yeah, unfortunately, like schooling is another problem is that sometimes you're just trying to fit a square peg in a circular hole. Like some people are just not good at art, some people are just not good at math or geography or whatever, and you still force people to be at some minimum level.
Yeah, that's the whole problem of. I mean, the problem is obviously schools are there to get a lot of education to a lot of people, and obviously if you get a really good education, then each education has to be totally different, because what you said, some people don't fit in there. So there would be people that maybe not need 10 years of general, all the general stuff, but maybe 1 year and then 9 years of playing the harp. Yeah. Because they just are into that so much. So and then maybe this has to be the biggest part. And even they don't care anymore after a few years. But that's not the important thing. The important thing is, that when somebody has a drive, it's like with this podcast. When you have a good topic and you go on and then you go off and you had fun and you talk about a lot of different things you didn't know what come up before, and that's kind of a cool thing. So and maybe this kid that really liked the harp, after it learned all that and was forced to not play the harp and learn that and do this, and doesn't get the drive anymore to play the harp. Right. Obviously all that is just, but so yeah. So the best thing. Obviously, this is not something that's possible. Maybe if you have, if you're a rich person and you have private teachers and you can say what you know. But so, for example, here in Germany, there's a plan, and that plan says what children have to learn. Mm-hmm. So even if you have people that are teaching special things, it's like, okay, if you want a degree, they have to learn these special things, and obviously these special things take most of the time. So I remember back in philosophy, and I liked that, and the teacher liked me, and she always wanted me to show something that I did back then. So it's Referat, does that word exist? So where a pupil takes on the teachings for 2 hours, kind of. And I didn't want to, and then we came to the effect. I said to her, I will afterwards decide for 1 week what we learn. And then I did it. And basically she back then told me I can do that, but the problem is it's really hard because we don't have time. We have this much stuff that I have to teach you.
Yeah.
Because this is what the text says. And we only have so much time for doing anything else, even though I think this is not important and we have taken this 3 times. And obviously these plans also, they get decided by a lot of people, and they got changed every 20 years because all have to come to the same point and obviously the world is a lot wider, changes a lot faster than the old books that you learned from and all these plans with what you have to learn. And yeah. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff to optimize in that regard.
Yeah, and now that you talk about it, like the idea hit and I think I've seen this very vaguely in school, like in high school or something, but there's the idea of what's called interdisciplinary, I guess, project or something. So like you get like a history major together with, let's say, a math major, and like you've got some project that needs both to figure it out.
Okay. Yeah.
And so that's like one good way, because like when you go to work, it's not just all IT people, or it's not just all receptionists, or it's just all salesmen. It's like you're a mixture of different people with different backgrounds to work together to make the company function. So it's very important to understand the IT people need to know what the salespeople need in terms of what kind of computer and how fast and what kind of, how much storage they need, et cetera, et cetera. And they need to understand what the CEO and the management needs. They need to know what the receptionist needs so they can make just the computer systems work. And the salespeople need to know, they need to know like within the company, let's say they need to know, they need to figure out kind of like how much they need to sell to keep the company going. And, there's every group within the company needs to know something about how the company works in order to contribute. I don't think we get a lot of that in school. We don't get a lot of like different groups working together. It's like everybody's going to work on this one project for math or history or whatever, and that doesn't really give you a lot of like kind of connecting the pieces together.
That also leads back to the circle from the beginning. So just meaning, I will stay in your example. So in that company, obviously, it's also good to know what the cleaners have to clean, because that one guy always puts its gum under the table. So the other group doesn't start shit about the cleaners not cleaning it because the guy just literally puts one there every 5 minutes. It's just it's just also knowing about what the others do, and just so it's not segregation again. It's not how all this starts with this group is bad, or they don't do their work right, or I don't like what they wear, and there's nothing, so also, so when it starts with different groups, when there are, for example, people, and I don't know if this exists. So, for example, groftis were back then there, were people that wearing, before there were emos or such a thing existed, there were people wearing black and long blazers and stuff. So, for example, in school, and it's not, with all these different groups, it never was like, that obviously you can just talk to them, ask them, but it's in school, it's not like that and this is what people in that age also kind of, I think, would appreciate. It's not like that you ask people why they are in a certain way or what such a thing means.
Yeah, yeah.
It's just like, okay, let's ignore everything and hope it works out. So this is
Mm.
the kind of approach most of the time. And it would be total interesting, total cool stuff also to teach on that. So for example, teach how group dynamics work and how group builds. So
Yeah.
why does it happen that people start wearing flags or using flags for a certain thing, or a certain thing represents another, or stuff like that. So, and we have
Yeah.
so cool examples with practical teaching, and even the pupils that run around, you know, and also with that way, it's obviously pretty interesting for a mind to grasp that thing. Oh, you know, so
Yeah.
that teacher always, oh, it's a boring. Oh, wait. Oh, that's interesting. You know, he got me. I'm in it. You know, it's kind of,
Yeah.
yeah.
Mm. So yeah, I mean, because well, at least from my perspective in my corner of the world, we don't do enough. Like, if you go into a company, you're kind of told what to do. You're not, and it's rewarded to, like, if you branch out from your field to kind of try to bridge or understand other groups to make it like better. Like, maybe if, like, because I'm in IT, I'm a computer guy. Like, if I understand why accounting needs this or this and this, I might be able to look at what they're doing, find a better, faster way. And by me doing that, it's not just about accounting. It's because, like, in any group, if I understand how what the sales guys are doing, I can maybe make their life easier by doing this, by setting up this computer system or whatever, and I become more valuable in the company. Because if you know how more than just one piece works, you're more valuable, um, and you're more important to the company than just someone who can just do this little piece. And if the company doesn't like them, you can get rid of them and get somebody else who knows this little piece. If you know how the pieces fit together and how to
Yeah.
make the company run better, uh, yeah, I mean, just become more valuable. Like, you become not only a more valuable employee, but you're a more valuable person, because, like, you have more knowledge about how stuff works. Um, and I think we just aren't taught that enough. And I think, and this comes back to the politicians, that they kind of do their own thing, but they don't really. It doesn't seem like they really branch out and try to figure out how stuff works. It's just how to
No.
manage
Yeah, how to
manage
manage and maintain it and keep it going and
rather than
make
how
it
to make it
grow.
better. Yeah.
Yeah, genau. So these are the factors. This kind of all runs. Sadly, I agree.
Like, here in the US, I mean, as far as I don't really, not an expert, but, like, I've just got the feeling that, like, all of our computer systems are old and out of date, and it's just kind of all hanging together with duct tape and string and stuff like that. Like, there's no, like, plan of, like, this robust system that can be, upgraded and maintained. And like this, it's like every little, like, department and in city has their own little.
They cook their own soup basically. Yeah.
Yeah. And because of that, like, you can't have really cities working together. Like, if you have, like, for instance, in the pandemic, if every city is doing its own, like, software, computer systems or whatever, like, they can't just all plug into the state and report how many infections they've got. They've probably just got to go to. It's probably my intuition is telling me, like, every city has to go into some, rather than have everything being all automatic and updating in the background. Like, there has to be someone who sits down and goes to the county website and says, oh, okay, we've got these many. They've got to go to the website, log in, say, okay, we've got these many infections now, and then next day they've got to log in and go to this many infections now, and then they got to go to the state and do that too. And it's like, there's probably all of this, like, effort that's wasted because we don't have a better system. We just have politicians and people just making it work just for tomorrow and fixing it only when things break, rather than kind of sitting back and saying, "Oh, how do we make this better?" It's there's no consideration for that, I feel.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. So probably there is, but not from the highest sources, from other people, and it has to get big enough
Right.
to get an ear, kind of, to get listened to.
Yeah, it's those people who think like, "Oh, well, if this piece and this piece of the organization are having this kind of issue, well, let's try something else. Let's look at another solution." But the people at top who have the power and the vote to make it happen, they say, "No, we don't want to break anything, even though it's kind of barely working. We don't want to break anything.
Yeah, also
We
the
don't."
problem is that it's mostly like when, okay, we would go for that, so probably most people would go for that, but only if we see this leads to, you know, this leads to the same that we talked for before. Okay, we can see that brings a lot more money and it's foolproof. Okay, I take it. This
Yeah,
leads to that much growth, even though there's a bit risk, but that would be that much money. Okay, I take it. Okay, this could lead to being a lot better and would take 20 years, and I'm not fully sure I won't take it. So
yeah,
it's obviously it's always kind of yeah. So I think one of the main problems is just is always that this is that all is kind of focused on money. We needed another currency. We needed a currency that gives you something, like the karma idea. If I even get the idea right, I don't know. I haven't read anything from India
hmm,
about karma or stuff like that. But something that like a human currency that you get for doing good stuff. That
yeah,
would be a lot better. So if you are, and I'm not talking about every citizen gets a, like in China, you have a social system and a number, and are that good or that bad. But if people do
right,
good stuff, they should get currency for that. So, and all are talking so much morally and stuff, and so that would be a sensible thing. And
yeah,
I mean, and it's also totally laying on hands. So if you want people to be good, then, well, I mean, there will be people that do good stuff just for the good, and that's obviously also the best. I mean, it's always good when good stuff happens, but there are also different reasons for doing good stuff. And the best good stuff is probably, on the one hand, the good stuff that you do not to, to say I've done something good, um, but just to help. On the other hand, when somebody is helped, maybe he doesn't care if he was helped. So
yeah.
yeah, but yeah, this kind of important. And I want to
It's
touch one after
mhm.
you.
It's a good idea, but I feel it'd be abused. Meaning, like, if you had an IT guy saying, "Oh, we should do this. We're we're doing this right now, but it's causing this problem A and problem B and problem C. If we try this other idea, it might get rid of those problems. And if it works, then I think my fear is that it's going to be abused, and that person isn't going to get the credit. It's going to be like the upper manager who's going to get that credit for saying, "Oh, I came up with this idea and I
Yeah.
implemented it," and then that person gets the credit. Whereas and that person
Well,
just kind of siphons off that karma.
well, you're right, but that the thing is, everything will get abused. Everything.
Yeah, yeah,
It's
everything.
always the same. Everything will abuse, especially when it first came out, because then there are tons of loopholes and people didn't think about how clever people could be to, find
Right,
ways to abuse stuff. So this will always happen with no matter what system, and the only
right.
way is just to start it and to make it better while you're finding that loopholes and stuff. That's always been the same with everything literally. Um, but yeah, that will totally get abused, definitely. But still, I think this is kind of something like that is important, and some religions try that, kind of.
Yeah,
But obviously, not all people believe in religion, or in the religions that say at the end they are, I don't know, you will get reborn as a better thing, or a better human, or that you will go to a better place that is paradise with tons of virgins. Whatever version like that, but they kind of tried it already
mhm.
in a certain yeah. in a smaller area. I also remember one Black Mirror where it was not like this. It was more like the social credit system in China.
Yeah, I think like we said before, we place too much emphasis and importance on money
Yeah,
and not on like, not to say people they're only I'm not to say a person's value is only how useful they are in society, and that's but like that has to mean something. Like when you have someone who's better at geography or at health, medicine, or finances, that person should be higher you know the in the organization than someone who's not good at it.
yeah,
And it should be kind of more based on, well, I guess it's not just how useful they are and how smart they are at that subject. It's just like how because you can have people who are really good at math or finances, but they're like they're bad persons, so they'll steal money. They know they can figure out how to steal money or do this or that works against the company to
yeah,
steal,
exactly.
or they can put the blame onto somebody else or something like that. So it's not just that. It's just like how there's got to be some kind of a way we can measure like how useful, but also how like helpful,
Yeah,
like positive they are and productive they are with
yeah,
the
yeah.
in an
That's right.
organization.
And this is obviously the hardest thing
Yeah, yeah,
to measure that. But yeah, I mean, who knows? Maybe in 10 years, all will have a, I don't know what's the name again? Have a neural link in their brain, and all
yeah,
and all that emotions will get. Oh, he's done something positive. +1. Um, okay,
yeah,
here's the end result for your month. You done 300 good and 600 bad things. Your result is -300.
yeah.
Congratulations. You stepped down. He will be reborn as a rain, as a bug.
Yeah. I just don't
Yeah,
know how we're gonna like the machines and the internet and computers are gonna make things more complicated on how we manage ourselves, because like there's so many ways to abuse it,
yeah,
and
and
we're doing
like
some of that now. But how do we avoid it?
we just said, when something comes out, there are tons of loopholes at the start. So who will be the first Neuralink person that gets hacked?
Yeah, yeah,
Not even joking here. So it's yeah, or even abused by some, I don't know, by Spotify that find a
yeah.
way to put ads in your brain when you stream Spotify with the new Neuralink in your head or whatever, and then
Man, could
you
you imagine
can't.
that? You're going to bed and your entire dream is some ad for some stupid company. Oh
Yeah,
man.
yeah, and then the ad blocker companies will also insert something in your brain to
Yeah,
block the ads, a little chip to put in there, and it's like, that's like with car software. So they try to lock everyone out and stuff, and pretty
mhm,
pretty scary shit. So now we're in science fiction. But on the other hand, I think that's a little bit like George Orwell. So it's science fiction now, but
mhm,
who knows in 20 to 30 years? Maybe it's not.
yeah.
Also,
Maybe it's just our nature to like when we invent one thing to help our life,
we'll
whether it
also
be like
develop a bomb out of that. Yeah. Next step.
more generally we'll develop like every possible way to abuse that thing that we invent to make our life better, to make it worse. And then just like we've got to go like you've got, let's say you invent the computer and then somebody uses it to abuse people this way. We've got to say, okay, we got to outlaw that, and then somebody else comes up with this other way, and then we say, okay, we got to outlaw that. We've just got to go through every single thing way you can abuse this new tool or idea, and make sure it's outlawed or forbidden before we can actually put it to good use. And it just seems like our nature to try to
Yeah, I agree.
oppress other people.
Yeah, totally.
Mm.
So one thing I wanted to add to to the part when we talked about school and what is taught and what not, is one thing that I also think is kind of important to have a talk about is purpose. So, and obviously you can't tell anyone what their purpose in life is. You just can't. But so, like I said, it would be cool if the guy in the example, for example, the guy that plays harp a lot would get a lot more time to play harp. Even maybe he doesn't become the greatest harper or whatever. But, you know, if you find out he's super bad at math and physics, okay, I'm not saying totally drop it, but, well, let that guy play his harp.
Yeah.
You know, and you never know what the purpose is, but so for me in my school in my school time, obviously the purpose of most people was letting school end and then playing football or doing something with their friends or playing video games or stuff like that, kind of, you know. So as far as you think, so the most people are not saying, I want to become a policeman and I want to be a firefighter and I want to become a doctor. So I don't know, not the people around me at least. So the only people that were like that were people that like got asked that 20 times by their parents during the week. And this is a lot. So in my school, the teachers were a lot like, okay, so, you know, your purpose is kind of your job. So, okay, the important thing, and obviously it's their mission to teach you that and bring you into that kind of life. But yeah, that felt so. I remember also for me that felt so frustrating because I was like, but that's not my purpose. I hate all of that. So it's not like I hate all of that, but it's like, okay, but I don't like any of these. So
yeah.
How can this be my purpose? You know. So yeah, I think that it would be important to have a bigger talk about what purpose even means, how one can find a purpose, what purpose can even, how tons of different forms that can be. And you know, so I would also, something I would like to see in school.
Yeah, I think you put it well that like in school we're taught like some basic general subjects like math and language and social studies, etc., that apply pretty broadly, but we're not like and oftentimes it doesn't go okay. And then of course not everybody's like great at math or social studies or science or whatever, so we still need some kind of broad like coverage over some subjects, but then we also
Yeah,
need to we need teachers, and I'm not blaming the teachers. I think we need to invest, we need to have more teachers, we need to pay them more, and we need to have like more, not just teachers but like assistants and all that, so you can get more face time with the kids. You can kind of, what we need to do is not just say, oh, just do this and this and this. We need to say, okay, you need to do this stuff because everybody needs to know this stuff. And I, whatever that foundation is, we could talk about that all day, but like some kind of base skill that everyone has as
yeah, I totally agree.
just,
There has to be a
just so
base.
we can function as a society. But then like, oh, this kid he's good at art. Well, let's give him some paper and a pencil. Let's see how well he draws. Well, okay, let's give him a canvas and some paint. Let's see if he likes painting. Let's give him some pottery, some clay. Let's see if he likes pottery. Like let's go into all these different aspects of art and see like what grabs out at him. Maybe
Yeah,
he likes art and he also likes literature. Maybe he likes to write poems or tell stories or something. Let's figure out what this kid likes to do. Let's expose this kid to all these different things, and then
yeah,
not just art, but like we'll just say, hey, let's bring this kid over to the science classroom. Let's have him study, like look at stuff under a microscope. Maybe he's fascinated with microscopic organisms or robots, or there's all these different subjects that a human
exactly.
can go into. And I feel like school just isn't enough. I mean, this is from my own perspective, of course, that to really get a, like, because in high school they're asking what do you want to do as a career, but they don't really give you a lot of exposure to all these different things to figure out what
Yeah.
calls to you.
And also, they always ask you that, but they are not like the thing as I said before, and you said it right. So, you know, obviously that would be pretty perfect if you get shown all the options you have there. But what
Right.
also would be an important point is to put in what the people do themselves, as I said before. So, with the example of the guy with the black blazer and the group building stuff, take
Yeah.
what people give you. If somebody is interested in something, ask them why,
Yeah.
and make something out of that. So it's not like, so also give them the option or integrate stuff they like that will make everything better. And maybe that could even become a career, So if the guy really likes skateboarding, don't make him throw a fucking spear in sport the whole time. Maybe, so, take stuff in, try stuff out, and especially let people try themselves out and try to support the things that kind of spike out there as a spike of interest or as a spike of motivation or as a spike of, oh my God, how good is this kid?
Yeah. And people, like, sometimes their hobbies go well with what they're good at as far as their profession, but then sometimes it's you can have an accountant who loves playing the saxophone. Like, there's really no overlap there, but you should still society should allow people to go, even if, like, you're not going to make money playing the saxophone, at least give people enough time to pursue that hobby so that they can get some fulfillment out of life.
And
Because I think there's, with a lot of things, there's a lot of give and take, as in, like, oh, if you do this for me, I'll do this for you. So, like, if as a society say, if you if you spend your time doing this accounting for me, then you should get some of this time off to pursue your own hobbies, so you at least get something out of life. You get a good trade out of life.
yeah, um, I totally agree. And this is also an important thing. Obviously, it is statistically totally right that learning the violin is a lot less of a job, a safe job than getting
Yeah.
an IT degree. That's totally
Yeah.
obvious and statistically totally right. On the other hand, it's I also totally agree. You shouldn't say people like I remember when I finished school and I thought about okay, I liked philosophy the most, and I thought about studying it, and everybody was telling me, "Well, you can't do anything with that." So that I
Right.
even didn't, it was like, yeah, okay, and then I waste all my time and it costs money, and yeah, okay,
Yeah.
so I better not do it, So it's important that people, for one, make their own experiences, and also that people find ways for stuff to work. And with that, I mean, I totally agree. It's probably really hard to um, get hired in an orchestra or whatever, or even be a street musician or whatever. That's not something that's safe and anyhow. Um, uh,
Right.
but maybe there are some finding people that found different ways to sell stuff. For example, there are people on Twitch that play songs on their instruments and get donations for them and get them requested. So there are so many different things, and it's a bad thing when all people always say that doesn't work, because they all just repeat the statistic, and that
Right.
only also leads to the fact that there's less other stuff discovered, because only the bravest will still go for it, because a lot get disencouraged before, I think.
Yeah. You remind me that, like, my best friend from high school, well, actually from fourth grade, I was 10 years old when I met him, and we continued to hang out throughout high school, throughout and in college. And he took up philosophy for his degree, and I asked, like, what kind of job can you get with the philosophy? Because like I didn't know, but I was essentially doing what you were just saying. He said, with a job of philosophy, all you basically can do is just teach philosophy. And I had that impression, although I kind of regret it now, that, like, I was like, well, why would you want to do that for a career? But, like, I should have thought, but I didn't think that, okay, well, that's what he's passionate about, that he loves doing philosophy. It's his joy in life. It shouldn't be that he has to, that
Yeah,
I looked down. I didn't look down. I didn't, like, say anything negative, but I kind of thought, well,
that
I
won't
thought that
work
was a bad
out, or
idea.
that will be a hard
Yeah,
one.
it's not gonna work out. It's a bad idea to
Yeah,
do that.
and
But I shouldn't have done
and that's cool because this is totally hand in hand with the other. So with the other thing that I said, like it was in my school, like it all was like everybody asked you what career, what would you like to do, and or
that. Yeah.
what job, and that, and then the comments like, okay, I don't exactly the same. So, but this is also what was taught kind of in school to all this people. There wasn't much of, oh yeah. So if somebody wants to become a football player, and obviously it's statistically pretty, you won't get
Yeah.
on the top, and it's it's nearly impossible. But it's pretty disheartening for a kid to say, yeah, that's totally unrealistic.
Yeah.
Fuck that shit. Go out, play that football. And so obviously don't only play football, but
Yeah.
yeah. But it's you can't see what you do with these things, and most people don't even think about it and just think, yeah, that's statistically right. But especially for children, I think, it's so important to make own experiences and finding own ways. And maybe they find ways that haven't been found before, and maybe they find ways that works, and maybe they don't, but they have learned a lot from that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah. And I just think that's really important for people to get a lot of exposure to different things, because then, like, okay, maybe philosophy doesn't work out. Well, I also was really good at physics or whatever, or was really good at uh, history or whatever. So maybe I can try to find a job in that. And you've got all these different options if you're exposed to a bunch of different industries and endeavors, and you can find out what works, what like clicks with you.
yeah,
And I think
you could even maybe I should do that. You could even write a book about all the things you tried that didn't work out.
yeah.
You can do so many things, and yeah, I mean the thing is just do it, and also don't get yourself too discouraged by others. Just try the stuff you want. Obviously, don't go for, if you're really young, I would say don't only go for one thing. Obviously, that can work out, but have something in the back end. So if you play football the whole day, all the time, then you break something and it's irreparable and you have a big problem.
yeah, yeah, yeah. That reminds me of, I was in college, and one of my English professors said she was a cheerleader in high school, and she tore like a tendon or something. And it's something, it's not like super common, but like it's known to happen when you're cheerleading. uh there's certain parts of the body that can more likely to get damaged. And like when this tendon tore, like it couldn't be repaired, and so that was just the end of her
Cheerleading career.
cheerleading career. So she had to, do something else, like you're saying. You just need to have some backup plans there.
Yeah, interesting. I gotta say. Um, by the way, I don't know if we have, but for what kind of sports are cheerleaders there? Because we
Hmm.
rarely have cheerleaders here at all.
Yeah. Here it's for football, like American football, and I think that's pretty much
Okay.
it. Yeah, just that.
And that's probably the reason, because the football exists here, but it's not really big. So
Yeah,
probably I never seen one.
yeah. And that's
Yeah,
that's kind of a fun thing to do, because it's a lot of exercise, and it's, you're hanging out with your friends. But like, as far as a career, it's not really that steady. Like, I mean,
yeah. Obviously, I mean, also, um, go cheerleading, young girls, go cheerleading. I mean, it's like cheating is just isn't that I didn't even, first of all, I gotta admit, I didn't even know that you get paid for that. I thought it's like, I don't
mhm,
know, maybe the girlfriends of the players or stuff like that, and
yeah,
it's like an activity in school where you can apply for when they play football or something. I thought, as I said, it rarely exists here, and I
yeah,
never seen one. Um, yeah, so I didn't know that. And even when I think, then it's probably, I mean, you probably wouldn't have a cheerleader that well, does it till she is 65.
Yeah, I mean,
I highly
you can't
doubt
do that
that.
for all your life. Yeah,
Yeah, and I also doubt that you make enough money in I don't know, the 5 or 10 years to.
yeah. I mean, just like sports, it's not going to last your entire life. Like you have to have some kind of a backup plan.
Again, let's make funny videos about such.
You can go ahead. I'll pass on that.
I just thought about totally stupid jobs and always make such a totally overblown success video. You know how it worked out, like the cheerleader. And with 65, I was still on top of the pyramid. And then she springs down and cracks her back. Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, I mean that's funny how like we started with the one topic and then just kind of led to all these different topics, which is fine. Yeah, I mean it's just like um, it's kind of there's a lot we can do to improve our society. It's just kind of a shame that we spent so much time
Not
keeping
doing
it
anything.
right, not making it better. Like we can do so
Yeah.
much better, just not doing it.
Yeah, it's totally right. But I totally agree. But I kind of resignated a bit. I lost faith in humanity long ago. I'm
Yeah,
just waiting for the aliens. Take me with you. Don't probe me. No, yeah, I
yeah.
don't.
When I was younger, I was thinking, okay, there's all these problems in the world. We just need to find the solutions. But now that I'm older, I think we've always had solutions. We just never
Yeah,
had the push to implement them. So that's why
yeah,
nothing's getting better.
yeah. And now we are too big of a kraken of a
Yeah, yeah,
that can't even if maybe a few will decide, but then there's still the eight, the 6 billion other, and then there's that, and there's it's just too much. It can't be. It's so we just found out today also that there are groups with people that kind of segregate themselves for others. It's the same with countries and also with political decisions. So, well, even if a lot come to the same conclusion with which a lot done with climate stuff, for example, still there's no real conclusion. There's slow things and probably all is too slow. And it was known the whole time. It's just most of the time, if something gets really big, if maybe the oil concerns, there were 3 ships and there's a whole ocean totally polluted, and then there's that, and there's so many, and then it gets so hot that all the farms don't get their corn and stuff like that. And it's like, okay, now something has to happen. It's all over the media, and then there's some activism and stuff a little bit, but it's not. So it's the whole time not long term. So it just now it gets more serious because it has to. But the whole time there was a chance to do it, and it was like, oh no, no. So,
yeah. We just don't, like I think many of us see it happening. We just don't have enough influence to get something going.
Yeah, and even as I just said, even heads of states and stuff like that don't have enough. It's just too much of a crack in the whole world and the whole humanity. Yeah. We need a guru for all of them. Okay, that could be the next funny video. The guru for the whole world. It could be a bit dangerous.
The thing is, like, we're also expecting one person to try to solve everything. We've all participated in making the world worse with trash and pollution, all that. We all have to participate. We just need to get people. We need to get the ball rolling. So some people will start, some people will resist. But I think if there's some progress being made, then people will say, okay, well, if I eat less meat, then these positive things will come out, and then you'll get just people that kind of join the group, I hope. But I mean, it's a huge problem that we can't easily take care of.
I agree. I have a hard one now. So what a hard one. Well, it's like, how do I? So what would you think if there would be a new movie that? Okay, I wanna go toward. I'm doing it really bad. I wanna go towards politics in movies and series and stuff like that. So just a little bit, because I just thought about when you said that, I was like, okay, what would be if there would be a new movie? I don't know, a new Batman movie or whatever. And I'm not really into movies, so I also don't know the newest movies and stuff. And then in this movie, there would be, there would be a lot like you're seeing people pick up trash and throw it in the trash can and stuff. And obviously, I think nobody want to see that in a Batman movie.
Right.
But during the last time, and this is why I came to that, and this association came, I found it, or I saw, as I said, I don't watch so many movies, so I mostly see some, I don't know, some Reddit post or something about a certain decision. Also in games, there are a lot of political decisions coming in, and I posted that last week somewhere. So Bungie, for example, that game development, they made Destiny. I have played Destiny one time and it was free for an hour. I never played it again, so I can't say much to the game. But I found it interesting. They have a diversity. I totally forgot it again. They have their own diversity committee, and the diversity committee decided to change the faces of the epic characters to represent more diversity.
Oh my god.
Yeah, I posted the link in the podcast channel somewhere during the last week. Yeah, and yeah, and also, well, there was a post, and totally don't get me wrong, but there was a post from, I only know the first 3 Star Wars movies, the first 3 that came out, and 2 Evox movies. There's a Star Wars game coming out, Star Wars Squadron, and as I don't know, I only read Reddit posts, so I can't say if this is fully true. So please Google for yourself. I'm just giving what I giggle about when I read it, and it was from one of the writers, and the post basically said, "I just wanted to let you know that one of the main characters is using the pronouns them and theirs." And I was like, I don't care about it, so I don't, that's not a matter for me. But I was just wondering, okay, why the fuck is this important? This shouldn't be important, and this is the problem. And it's totally okay that is the case, but I mean, maybe tell me about the story that you've written and not the pronoun that your fucking character uses. That was so funny. So it's kind of like or the Ghostbusters movie where they were all women in. I also didn't watch that, but it's kind of, do they all want to? They have all political agendas and try to get them out to be there in a certain light, and that's that's sad and funny. And I also don't think it will help. It will lead to the opposite. Kind of. Yeah. Because people will. I mean, I also don't like that. But I have not a problem with that because this is displayed. I think you are doing it wrong. It just has to be normal and not like, okay, so the first fact about the new story of Star Wars is their pronouns. I mean, come on. How stupid is that? Yeah. Or diversity committee changing faces. I mean, if I would be a creative director and had designed a face, and then there's a diversity committee urging me to change it, because I would be like, what the fuck?
Because the diversity committee made some like checklist, and they want to change things so they can check off their boxes, and then they can dust their hands off and say, okay, we did our job, and then everything's all better now. And so what I want to say about that is that, okay, let's just assume, I'm just going to make the assumption that like video games in the past have just been all white males or white, women or whatever. And that's the past. We can't change that. And to go back and redesign a game just to change someone's sexuality or their pronouns or their skin color or whatever, it's just like you're rewriting history, which is not good. But from
Yeah.
this point, I'm completely fine if you want to represent more people in your game. Just don't make it artificial. And that's what I feel about
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
one game I feel that does that is Overwatch. Now I'm probably gonna ruffle feathers here, but from what I understand, Overwatch doesn't really have that much of a story. And so they say, oh, okay, this character's gay or this character is this and that, or and it doesn't, because there's no story, there's no like impact. There's no, it's just artificial, just you know, changing dials and pushing buttons and doing artificial, like these superficial
Yeah.
surface level changes. But like if they say, oh, this person's gay and this is their backstory and this is the this is the trouble that they had in their life, or this is the way they went because of their how they were born and how they were mistreated or not mistreated or whatever. That's more like organic, and that feels like I think that feels better because you're giving some consideration rather than just saying, oh, okay, we're gonna change a few design decisions and then say, okay, we're done and everything's
Yeah.
all
Now,
better.
now
And
we have all races in. We are
yeah,
fine.
now we're compliant and we're all politically correct now. And no, it's just that there's no effort there to really connect with people who are gay or transsexual or kind of the non-traditional what do you say, like binary uh heterosexual kind of people. Like those people, I feel like those people would like to like connect with some particular video game character, and if there's no like backstory, then there's really nothing to connect over.
Yeah. Yeah.
If
Yeah. I
this
mean, that's
person said,
always
oh,
the
this
same way.
person was gay, if their backstory is, oh, this person was gay but they had to hide it because they were bullied, and now that they're the circumstances have happened where this gay person was able to come out, and now the fate of the world rests on their hands, and that's like a gay, that's kind of a figure that the gay community can get behind, because they say, oh yeah, we were bullied too as we were growing up, we had to hide it in shame, and now we're able to come out, and that's more of a, I think, a positive thing to do rather than just changing shades of a character's skin or
Yeah, I mean, it's like you can just basically bring it down. Like it's like, okay, this character is heterosexual. Now I feel like this is me. No, that's
yeah.
exactly the same. Like, okay, he is now homosexual. Oh, cool. I feel totally represented. I can feel with that.
Now I'm, now that was worth everything I went through from growing up or
Yeah,
whatever. Now
I
people
will always
understand.
choose this character.
Yeah, now people understand how I felt when I was growing up. No,
I, I
it's
felt
lazy. It's lazy.
I felt the same with Overwatch. I played Overwatch when it came out, for probably 1 or 2 months or something like that. Um, and well, I just played it as a team-based shooter. I couldn't care less for. I just cared for what are the abilities of the character, which ones do I like, because it's
Yeah,
like, okay, one, for example, you can play it like in a shooter, so he shoots where the crosshair is without traveling speed, for example, or or there's another one that shoots rocket, or another one that heals. So you kind of, so this was interesting for me, and I only so in the game itself there was no story to that. Maybe the loading texts, not that I didn't read them, so I got. And when new characters came out, when they announced them, there was a little video where something like that was told, and I was always like, okay, I only want to see the abilities. I don't give a fuck about. But that's just, I mean, probably there are people that are interested into that lore, but yeah, I felt the same. Like, okay, that doesn't really matter, because it was a shooter, it was no RPG, and I think probably most people, if even, watched that one time. And well, I mean, probably there
yeah.
are two people at home speculating about the next step, and if some of the Overwatch champions get into a relationship in the next episode, but I don't think so, or not so many.
Yeah, and not all games are like Overwatch. No, I don't play Overwatch, but I think it's mainly just gameplay. Like they have a backstory, like a small backstory, just to set up the world, but like when you play game to game, there's no progression in the story. It's just you're literally fighting another team, and there's no advance in the story or the plot or anything like that. There are some games like Warframe that are mainly just, you run missions to go collect XP and money and parts and craft and stuff like that. And then every like 3 months, there's a progression in the story, so there is a backstory. And so in that case, if there are like, as far as I know, all the characters, there's no like personal backstory about like there's a backstory for the your player, just kind of in general, but like nothing specific. There's nothing you can say, okay, my character grew up on this place and my character had this kind of a childhood. You don't really get to like personalize it. But like um if if a game doesn't have any backstory at all, it's fine. You shouldn't kind of like force you don't necessarily need to force diversity in there. If you're going to have an RPG where you get to choose like your characters, your childhood and how you progress and what you do to then having like options for like non-traditional sexuality and stuff like that matters more, I think. And
Yeah.
that's where I think these gender committees should focus on those kind of games that have we follow a character, and that person like changes. Oh, this event happened and I had to decide between this and this, and I chose this way and I'm regretting what I did because I could have done this instead. And I think that's where like we can
Yeah,
really
I totally agree. It's just also, so when you have options, totally. So when you design your character, and also in every other way, but it just has to make sense and be in context and not feel like you butcher the game to put in more diversity. So you just put something on. So, it's just like with every text. It's just when you read something and there's a character. So the character is good or the character is bad. So I don't care what the character is, and if it's made of. So I read it and I like it or I don't like it, and the chance that I don't like it, when, well, the wrong thing has nothing to do. It's just like, just make it good, and then it's totally fine. It's just don't force feed political statements out without making them in a good way from the game design, and just putting them on top of that.
yeah.
And it seems pretty stupid. And then even advertise that before giving out other stuff. It seems also kind of stupid to me. I mean, maybe some marketing pro things that will get the right attention, but I think that's pretty stupid, and rather leads to some people thinking, "Oh, what the fuck." I don't know. I don't think that's the right way.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like that's just kind of forced diversity, and that's not really. I don't think that's really much better uh, than having kind of the past where you had just mainly white characters. I mean, I don't think I don't think it was like really intentional necessarily that all the characters are white and that was just like a bunch of racists making video games. It's just they didn't really think about including diversity, and that it just didn't really occur to them. Whereas now it's a good thing that we're thinking about it, but like if you're forcing it, it's not
Yeah,
necessarily any better. It's just kind of lazy. Whereas
yeah.
you have some game where
Yeah, that also, I think that also, if you kind of force feed it, it leads to, I think the people that are opposite will get more opposite of through that, even.
yeah.
Not that I say or think that all can be converted or stuff like that. No, I don't think that. But I think it will, such things make it harder. Make the gap between the groups harder.
Yeah. Yeah, and video games are very, like, now that you mention it, video games are a very good way to not force diversity down your throat. But let's say your character is just whatever, you pick a straight white male because that's what you are, and that's fine, perfectly fine. But let's say you make friends with somebody and they've had a hard childhood and they're struggling, and you become friends with them and they're really good to you and they're loyal to you, and you get yourself in a pinch and they help you out, and vice versa. And that person over time just kind of reveals, oh yeah, that person says, oh yeah, I'm gay, and like I've had to hide it because I've been bullied by it. Then that's the moment where you can get some people who are maybe not anti-gay, or people who don't really understand gay people. They can maybe get a little bit of sympathy there. Like you can kind of get your foot in the door into getting people to kind of to I don't want to say open up, but like just kind of think about how other people.
This is the same like in the games. Just meet them in a natural way. So that's just it. Just realize, oh, okay, it's also a human being, just like me. That sounds so stupid, but it's just like we have so much in common, and this is just one thing. So I mean, when I grew up, there was still a lot of prejudices against gay people. I would say here, and when it was pretty late. And I also thought kind of, when I thought about it, like, it was like, ugh, that it was my thinking in that age. And the first one that I had contact with was he was called Klaus, and he was a really good friend of my best girlfriend, basically. And and one evening we wanted to party somewhere, and she said he also comes and stuff, and he was even totally typical. So that what I even also thought before, why is that? So speaking with a high voice and being girly and stuff. And I think I was 17 or 18 or something like that, I think. And we went out and we totally had tons of fun. And and I afterwards still thought, okay, I don't get why he talks with this high voice, and I don't get some of the things, but who cares? He's a cool guy,
Yeah.
So it's just getting to know each other, and everything that makes the gap bigger makes it harder to get into natural contact with each other.
Yeah.
Especially between groups that are kind of, the opposite directions.
Yeah, and we were talking earlier about how like our, from what I understand, like our ancestors would trust the people in their village, and if there was another, if you found another group of people, you would distrust them because they're different from us. And I think that's carried over to today, where like, I'm a straight male, and so because I'm not gay, like I don't have that, like I'm not really, how should I say this? I would need to, there's that difference between me and gay people. And so that difference could be, to some people, like a way to keep away from that person, because they're different. They're different from me. So I don't want to have any contact with them. But I feel like most of us have so much in common, and we focus on the differences. So like there's all these people you can meet and like have a lot of fun with, but they could be a different skin color, a different sexuality or whatever. It's just like, if we could all get past those small differences, we can really connect with other people, like a lot more people than we do now. It's just, for some reason, like our culture seems to be like really fixated with the differences between people, and we're missing out with all the good stuff like we have in common.
Yeah. Also a lot of the groups that are pro something. I think that awareness is a good thing, but I also think that some things make it worse. So there should be there shouldn't be a white proud whatever. There should just be humans. So it's just as basic as that. So there are so many things like this and now we are, but this is, I don't know, this is Black history, this is white history, this is Indian history, it's all
human history.
Yeah, it's just all the same. So don't stick out with that difference. So just it's all cool. And I think the more you stick out those things, even a lot if you mean it in a good way, it's just like separating again. Because some people feel like included in the special group and others feel excluded.
Right.
Yeah. Anyway, I think we came around a long way today, as always. And yeah, it was fun. I don't know. We started with. We didn't even talk much about. You wanted to start with Corona. Have we talked about Corona?
Yeah, we got into politicians, and then I just kind of went, well, that's fine.
Yeah, it's all good. So, yeah,
A lot of productive, I thought. Very good.
yeah. Hey, Drachenflamme.
Yeah.
It would be that easy to overlook the differences, then we wouldn't have problems in the first place. Hey, yeah. Anyway, I just wanted to wrap it up, but I think it was nice.
Yeah.
So yeah, the next one will happen as chaotic as this one. We don't know when exactly, but probably on the weekend.
Yeah. Saturdays work pretty well.
Yeah. Next weekend I have a date. Not a date, but I'm making music, so I'm meeting with the old guys and
Okay.
and yeah. So let's see what comes out of that. So next week, no podcast or Sunday. That Saturday falls flat for me. So thanks for listening, and yeah, see you next time. Bye bye.
Hanging out.